And here it is, the first video of 2026. I hope everyone had a pleasant New Year's Eve and that things are going to go well for us all in the upcoming year. It's the start of a new month, so it's time to do some updates. Join me with a tasty beverage of your choice close to hand while we take a look at 2, 3, 4, and 5-year Hoya updates. And before we get started, I'm happy to take this opportunity to send out a special thanks to Erica, who signed up to send me coffees every month, to Tamra and Dawn, who bought me coffees recently, and to Beata and to Caritas4347, who sent me super thanks. Your support for my channel means a lot to me personally and goes a long way in helping keep me in Hoyas and dischidia and the new genera, that's the word, genera I'm exploring. So thank you all very much for your support. And we've got something in bloom this week, and I am thrilled about it. Back in 2024, Anne from Plants Our Life Shop sent me a couple of cuttings of a Hoya that she labeled ABL 017. And it was an accidental cross of Hoya Genevieve and an unknown father. Didn't even leave a name or a number. So we can't even text him and let him know. But I was the only one to have these. And in the intervening time, the two cuttings have grown very, very well, done quite well for me. And this week, one of the two of them bloomed for the first time. And I'm going to put close-ups over here of the blooms. They are very pretty. I've been watching this like a hawk for the last week and a half. In the middle of last week, it started opening. The blooms do remind me of pictures I've seen of Hoya Genevieve, which is a hybrid. And if I figure out what that hybrid is, probably a Mike Bernardo hybrid, I'll put that over here too. But it's very neat. Very pleased about it. I sent Anne pictures and said thank you very much. The thing that's interesting, I have to figure out which vine this bloom belongs to, because sometimes seeds from the same seed pod can produce different results. And an example of this is Hoya Matilda and Hoya Shuka. Both of those cultivars of Hoya came from the same seed pod, but if you have them both, you know that they're a little different. So yeah, I got to trace back and indicate somewhere on the base which one this came from. So that's very cool. I'm very excited about it. It's currently living in the fallout from my Sansi grow lights over here, my clip-on grow lights. And it seems to be enjoying that. There's a little bit of dark margin on these leaves. It might be difficult to see, but I'm so thrilled with this. It is very, very cool. And in honor of the kind seller who sent that to me, I've named this one, and she told me I get the naming rights. It's Anne's Treat. So thank you very much, Anne. This is done really, really well. Very pretty plant. Very cool. Thanks. And the next one we looked at just last week because it was blooming, and I didn't realize it was going to be having a 2-year anniversary so soon. And this one is my little Hoya lockii. Now, Hoya lockii is native to Vietnam. It was first collected in 2011 in Toi Tien Huy province at a height of 1,000 meters. And it was published in 2012 in Taiwania by Van Te Pham and Leonid Vladimirovich Avryanov. And it was named after the Vietnamese botanist Professor Phan Ke Loc, L-O-C. And the name lockii came from the Latinization of his last name, the name Loc, to Lochius. So that's lockii. And yeah, this is done so well. Hoya lockii has grown quite well for me. The only downside is that once it's bloomed on the peduncles, and there's current blooms, and I'll put some close-ups over here, it doesn't bloom on them again. And the new peduncles only form at the tips. So as you can see, there's a few more peduncles coming in on those nodes, like right there and right there. But it does produce a really, really pretty plant. So I think I'm going to try and straighten this one out a little bit in the upcoming weeks. And I think I'm going to give it a larger pot. It's doing okay, but I've had to put a weight on it just to keep it from tipping over. And there's a couple supports in here. So I think I'm going to use more bamboo stakes, maybe 2 of them on a larger pot. And I'm going to zip tie them to the outside of the pot. I'm going to try that and see if that works. Fingers crossed on that one. But it's done really well. It needs, well, it's a big plant. You know, this is easily a meter tall, 30 inches, 35 inches, somewhere if I straightened it all out. It hasn't been demanding, it's just thirsty. It's a thin-leafed Hoya. The leaves are slightly undulate along the edges. They don't feel pubescent at all. There's a little bit of splash. There's a recessed central rib and some slightly recessed side veins. But I think it's a little bit of splash on the undulate edges that just make it really cool. So, and this one has branched on its own. I'm thinking if I put it in a larger pot and really, give it some room to run, it'll turn into a really neat plant. I have seen Miro's lockii, and it's as tall as he is. It's a monster of a plant, and yeah, so that's what we're working with on this one. This has just been fun. If you're interested, I mean, the blooms are gorgeous. There's no arguing with that. Just know that it's going to get tall. So this is like, as I said, this is a meter in 2 years. So just keep that in mind. It won't grow sideways for you. So if space is a premium, this could be kind of fun. But yeah, I'm happy with this growth. This one came from Age of Foliage RS on Etsy, and this is my Hoya lockii. The next 2-year birthday is my Hoya Nicholsoniae New Guinea Ghost. Now, Nicholsoniae as a species is native to Queensland in Australia, to Papua in Indonesia, to New Caledonia, Papua New Guinea, Samoa, and the Solomon Islands. And it was first published in 1866 in Fragmenta Phytographiae Australiae by Ferdinand Jakob Heinrich von Müller. And the sheet notation, the herbarium sheet notation says Austral, so it was probably found in Queensland. New Guinea Ghost, however, is a naturally occurring sport or variation or phenotype of Hoya Nicholsoniae that was found by Nathaniel Simonson on the island of New Guinea. The first time I saw this, I wasn't sure I liked it. And I will say that it doesn't necessarily show up terribly well in pictures or on video. But everyone was raving about it. Everyone was raving about it. And I thought, let's give it a try. Let's see. So I waited and I found one at a decent price. And when it arrived, there was something wrong with it. Some kind of scale, something. And I thought, well, I can fix, I can treat insects. I can fix that. And it just never, ever, ever got better. Even after I thought I'd successfully treated it, it just didn't do it. So I kept my eyes open again and found this little beauty. I should have a picture, I think, of what it looked like when it arrived. And it has turned into this little monster. It's just, the pictures don't do it justice. At least they didn't to me, but when it got here and started growing, I'm all over this. Some of the leaves have a little bit of splash variegation. They're mainly just this beautiful kind of silvery green color. It typically lives up here on the top, so it's fairly close to the grow light. I don't see any sun stressing on the tops of the leaves, but there will be occasionally some sun stressing on the back of the leaves. This took a while. It took a while. It was one of those typical sleep, creep, leap Hoyas. And if you don't know that old joke, it says the first year they sleep, the second year they creep, and the third year they leap. Well, okay, so it did its sleeping and creeping in the first year, and this last year has just gone crazy. I've got these vines wrapped around a couple of times. They are probably 7 or 8 feet long, and it's produced this beautiful, beautiful plant. I need to put this on an optimistic trellis because it could clearly fill an optimistic trellis. This is a short one, but yeah, this is done quite well. Really pretty plant. If you're intrigued by all the ghost and mint and all the other stuff, this might be one for you to try. It's usually readily available, and I haven't had any problems with it. Whose is that? I haven't had any problems with it whatsoever. It's just pretty. It's very, very, very pretty. No drama, no trauma. I've got it growing in pond and self-watering. It is medium. So that's a combination of medium thirsty, moderately thirsty. And it does okay under the brighter light. It wants moisture, but it's not going to be too rough on you. The leaves are somewhat flexible. They have slightly raised veins, very definite lancelet shape. And yeah, this is just, I wasn't sure I was going to like it when I ordered it, and now I'm absolutely convinced it's a gorgeous, gorgeous plant. Definitely one to keep your eye out for if you're interested. This one also came from Age of Foliage RS on Etsy, and this is Hoya Nicholsoniae, New Guinea Ghost. Now on to the plants who've been here for 3 years. And the first one up is my Hoya Marillii. Now, Hoya Marillii is native to the Philippines. It was first collected on Mindoro Island at a low altitude and published in 1904 in Fragmenta Florae Philippinae. And it was collected by Elmer Drew Merrill, Marillii. And it was published by Friedrich Richard Rudolf Schlechter. This was one of my, not early forays. I had other Hoya, but this was the first one to bloom for me. Gorgeous, gorgeous leaves. And it snuck up on me when it bloomed. And I should have pictures over here of what the blooms looked like. And I wasn't even paying it. I was watering it. It was growing under grow lights at that point. It wasn't terribly tall. So it was growing over here on the bottom shelf. And it was growing. I was happy. I hadn't really noticed the peduncle forming. And I came in one morning to give it a drink and full-blown blooms. I was so thrilled, especially because it was the first Hoya to bloom for me. So yeah, it's done very well, as you can see. It's a good grower. It will develop a little bit of sun stress because at this point, this one's growing probably 6 inches or 15 centimeters away from the grow bulb. or the grow strip. No issues, no drama, no trauma, no problems whatsoever with this one. It has put up with occasional underwatering, which is something my Hoyas have to learn to do. And it has just grown. It could probably grow on a full-size optimistic trellis. This is about probably, what is that? That's 6 inches, so probably like 10 centimeters, somewhere around there. Shorter than a standard optimistic trellis. And it probably wouldn't hurt for me to retrellis this, but retrellising can be traumatic for both the plant and for me. If you do it right, it's a long, slow process. You have to unwind everything, trying not to break or scratch leaves. So my process, more than you may want to know, is I start taking off the Velcro ties from the bottom up so that the whole thing doesn't flop over. And then I slowly unwind the plant from the top down, put in the new trellis, and then leave the vines spread out, and I turn the pot and like reel in the vines and then attach them into place. It's a process that can take, a plant like this could easily take an hour because I don't want to damage it. It's done really well, so yeah. But it's doing quite well as it is now. It's currently living on the bottom shelf over here. As I told you what the position of the grow light is in relation to this. So it's just done well. If you like those kind of leaves and that look, this is really, it's good. It's usually fairly easy to find and not insanely expensive because it's not one of the big old fancy Hoyas that everybody's after. So these can be found. This one came from TQ Hoyas on Etsy, and this is my Hoya Murilli. And the next one up for 3 years is my Hoya blasharnesi. Now, blasharnesi is native to the Philippines, to Catanduanes Island, and it was first published in 1999 in Fraterna by Dale Kloppenberg, and it was named after the collection team leader, Blas Hernes. And we have had something of a journey. It's a very, very pretty plant. Very pretty. I like the look and shape of those leaves. Very long lancelet. They are measuring on this particular plant, I would say from petiole to tip, about 4 inches or 10 centimeters. Doing very well, putting out a new leaf in there, as you can see. It has not bloomed for me yet, and one would think that after 3 years it would be doing a little bit better. And there is a story. Of course there is a story. It's me. There's a story. This one is the top part of my original plant. And during the great flat mite bout of a few years ago, the bottom of the plant got wailed on, and it was not looking good. The flat mites were just all over this one. I'm not quite sure why they liked this particular species more than the others, but it seems that they did. So I was afraid I was going to lose the plant, and my reaction is always, I'm going to take a cutting and get some insurance. So the bottom part of the plant is still alive. It's been growing in my bedroom in a west-facing window, and it's not doing as well as this one is. And I just checked again, and it's got some other issues, pest issues, but this one is pest-free at present. And this one's growing here in the Hoya room. So it's doing okay. It's putting out new growth. I'm very happy about it. I think it could use a little bit more light. Not much. It's growing right here and over there on the edge of my desk, and it's aimed toward, I have two sets of grow shelves over here. And it's doing okay, but I just think it could use some more light. I'm usually pretty good about keeping this one watered, but, well, yeah, roots are just starting to poke out the bottom. So I'm gonna keep working with this one. The blossoms are beautiful. I like the shape of the leaves. I like the look of the plant. So I'm gonna keep my fingers crossed and see if I can get this one to get going. I gotta find a space for it. You know, if you have Hoyas, you know. I thought I had a solution, but two of the plants that live down there, you're gonna be seeing them later, so they're over here. I'll figure something out, because I think that's what this would appreciate, to really get going. But it's healthy enough, it's done very well. It's very pretty, and blooms would be really cool too. So yeah, we'll hang in there with this one. This one came from Sproutique on Etsy, and this is my Hoya Blasharnesi. Next up, also here for 3 years, is my long-suffering Hoya chicken farm. Now, Hoya chicken farm is definitely a Finlaysoni type, but is currently thought to be its own species. It was first collected in 1997 on the island of Borneo in Malaysia, the Sabah province near Tenom in Sabah. And it was growing near a chicken coop, so that was the name given to it. It was collected by Eva Karen Viberg, and she gave it that name, that designation. This poor plant. It's a gorgeous plant. I highly recommend it. It's absolutely beautiful. It gave me no trouble. It still gives me no trouble. My problem is that it's a thirsty plant, and it grows fairly quickly. And keeping up with it, I need to find a better location for it because I'm not getting to it often enough. The flat mites wailed on this one, and you can see damage that's still there. And I'm thinking that I may just need to take a cutting from this. The top leaves are in pretty good shape, and see if I can reroot it and perhaps start it again. It has looked absolutely gorgeous in the past. It doesn't look that gorgeous right now, and that's all on me. So I may try and fix that by starting it over again. That having been said, it is absolutely beautiful. It grows well. I should have pictures of what it looked like when it arrived, and you can see what it's done in 3 years. It has bloomed for me frequently, and I should have pictures of the blooms over here at some point as well. So yeah, I really like this plant, and I would absolutely recommend it to you. Do a better job than I have. The vines are woody, the leaves are firm. Slightly recessed central rib, slightly raised side ribs, maybe raised central rib. There's a nice bit of variegation. There's a little bit of splash. It's not difficult. It really, until I started neglecting it, was doing very well. So I'm going to try and remedy that. But yeah, definitely worth keeping your eye out for. It's worth shopping around for. Don't just buy the first one you see, because they are still fairly popular. For a long time, this was the it plant. They were commanding top insane dollars. They shouldn't anymore, because it does pretty well. But yeah. Wish this one was looking better for company, but it isn't. That's the way it goes sometimes. This one also came from TQ Hoyas on Etsy, and this is Hoya Species Chicken Farm. And one more that's been here for 3 years, but this one looks far better. So this is my Hoya endowensis. Now, Hoya endowensis is native to Malaya in Malaysia and was found on the banks of the Ulu Endau. And I have the notes. The note says Ulu Endau River, but I think Ulu means river, so that would be River Endau River. In Johor, in Malaysia. It was first collected in 1985 and published in 1989 in Malayan Nature Journal by Ruth Q. And this little beast has done so well for me. I should have a picture over here now. Future me put that in here of not when it arrived, but shortly thereafter, its early days. And it has since just grown a treat. It's just a gorgeous little plant. The leaves are, well, the larger leaves are measuring, that's about 1.5 inches or 4 centimeters. They have slightly undulate edges. They are sort of heart-shaped, rather round. They are, yeah, I would call those almost rigid. And it has just grown like crazy. When it was first getting started, I had it over here living on this shelf, actually over in this corner. And it did okay, but it was, it was a good, almost a good foot from the grow light. But at a certain point, it had grown up and grown tall, and I realized that it was looking a little pale. So I put it on an optimistic trellis and moved it down here. So it's in between this grow setup and that grow setup. And it loves it down there. It has just gone crazy with growth in the last year. I mean, it branches. This vine has already branched into 2 more vines. It's grabbing onto everything, and it's just gorgeous. I have it growing in pond and self-watering. It's got a decent little root system. It's not a particularly thirsty plant. The stems are green. They're not woody. At the base, they're a little woody, but for the most part, they aren't. The leaves are rigid, as I said, but I don't think they hold a lot of moisture. But it's not terribly demanding in terms of moisture, at least in my experience. The leaves are just very, very pretty. It has bloomed. Pictures of the blooms over here, future me. And you can see that they are really, really cool. This has just done so well. My take on it is that it doesn't demand a lot of moisture, but it wants regular access to it. It doesn't necessarily want a lot of strong light. And kind of like ignore it a little bit, and it should be okay. It has just grown so well. I would hate to think of how tall these vines are if this were growing up a tree. The optimistic trellis is, what is that? That's, let's say 55 centimeters tall. Don't jump, girl. 55 centimeters tall, and this is filling every bit of it, going round and round a few times. So yeah, definitely, this is like just such a success story for me, and such a pretty plant that I can't go on. I'll just go on rhapsodizing about it forever. Definitely worth looking for. If you like small-leafed Hoyas with interesting leaf characteristics, they're all solid green. There's probably variegated varieties out there that'll cost you an arm and a leg. But I think this one's cool just as it is, with the nice little undulate edges and everything else about it. Just beautiful. Keep your eyes out for it. This one came from Sproutique on Etsy, and this is Hoya endowensis. And now we come to the plants who've been here for 4 years. And the first one up is Hoya Rosita. Now, Hoya Rosita is a hybrid, so there's no map to go with this one. And originally it was said to have been a cross between Hoya and Hoya tsangi. And I just never saw that. I saw the Wayeti because it's got these beautiful long leaves. There's some slight dark margins along the edges. I saw that, but tsangi, hold on. That's my Hoya tsangi, and I don't see that in that. So it didn't make sense to me, but I'm not a botanist, so I can't, I depend upon people who know more about that than I do to explain it. So recently, as I was doing some more research, I read an article that said that it's not tsangi. It was part of that whole mix-up of species affinity Burtoniae, sometimes being called Hoya tsangi, even though it's not. And when I looked at this, and I thought, Hoya Wayeti and species affinity Burtoniae, absolutely. Makes complete and total sense. So that's what I'm going with right now. That could still be wrong, but that's what I'm going with. That makes much more sense. This is a floppy plant. It's typically grown trailing because it just wants to do that. And I may relent at some point and let her just go. It's just, there's no structure to the vines at all. They just go and flop down. The leaves are just beautiful. Beautiful, dark, with a little bit of a dark margin. You may see some nectar on some of them. Right now, she is living in the bottom shelf of this grow shelf. So the grow lights are about 12 to 15 centimeters, 6 inches. Am I doing my math right? Let's say 6 inches is, 6 inches is about 15 centimeters above the top of her. She will grow up if she finds something to grab onto, but she's just a hanger. The name, Rosita, is supposed to come from the person who did the cross, and that was Rosita Peterson. It's beautiful. I should have pictures of its blooms. I didn't find them on my first go-round, but I will look again for them, and if I do, they'll be over here, of course. But it has grown very, very well. I think if this were in a pot and were trailing, I think it would be very, very pretty. I also think it would be maybe 2 or 3 feet long, because this vine goes around a couple of times. So if you find one of these, I highly recommend it. It was a sleeper for a little while. We're looking at 4 years now, so it was a sleeper for a little bit, and then it started growing. And it's not a rampant grower. Well, actually, it actually is a pretty good grower. But once it gets established, it'll really take off. This one came in an organic mix, so that's what I've got it in now. I don't know if anybody can see in there, but it's my standard organic mix of cocoa husk chunks and long fibrous sphagnum and fine bark and some pumice. If I had tree fern fiber, I might have thrown some of that in, who knows. But it's not terribly thirsty, but it does want regular access to moisture. The leaves have a slightly raised, softly raised central rib and side ribs. The leaves are flexible. They have a little bit of succulence to them. The vines are green, but there's no rigidity to the vines at all. They are floppy. So if you have space to let Rosita trail. She might really like that. I might try and see if I can find a spot where she can do that. I have one more spot left in the bedroom for a ceiling hook. So maybe. We'll see. I think it would be really pretty. No difficulties, just a gorgeous green plant. I'm sure there's probably a variegated version out there, but I don't need variegated everything. I think this one is just beautiful. These are usually easy to find. They're usually inexpensive. So if this whole thing appeals to you, definitely worth looking for. Yeah, I nothing bad to say about this plant. It's sturdy, it's forgiving. I think it would look really, I'm so tempted to try and repot this into a hanging plant. Plus it would give me more space on that shelf, so ulterior motives. This one is just fine. This one came from Plant Demand on Etsy, and this is Hoya Rosita. Also here for 4 years is my Hoya linearis. Now, Hoya linearis is native to Assam in India, to South Central China and the East Himalayas, to Laos, Myanmar, Nepal, and Vietnam and Bhutan. It was first published in 1825 in Contributions to the Botany of India by Nathaniel Wallach. And there's a note that says that in Sikkim, it grows in the hot valleys from 4,000 to 6,000 feet. It is a cooler growing Hoya and has done, well, pretty well for me. It's easily, I am just under 6 feet tall, and from the top of the pot to the bottom of the vine, the longest vine, it is probably 6.5, almost 7 feet. This has done pretty well for me. It might like a slightly cooler room. But this room, it doesn't get terribly hot until, August, September, and I'm here in the Northern Hemisphere. It's grown very well. I thought I would like to make a bit of a fuller pot. That vine doesn't look too good. And so I took some cuttings and just popped them in up here. That didn't go well. So I thought I would take some, boy, that vine does not look good, does it? So I thought I would take some other cuttings, and it was no terrible loss. Take some other cuttings. I started some of them in water, and I started some of them in pumice, and they are not doing terribly well. I have seen people do the butterfly method and cut these all, and I think the advantage to the butterfly method is if you take one long strand and cut them into segments and try and root them that way, that you have greater odds of success because you're doing more cuttings. If anyone has a really good, man, that whole vine just doesn't look good, does it? Not putting energy into that. And where's that going? Oh, that all looked terrible. Okay. Let's see what we can do with that. Yeah, that was never going to root. So if anybody has a really good technique for, I want to roll on the bottom of it, for rooting linearis, drop it in the comments. So far, I have had mixed results. The plant grows well enough. It has bloomed for me, and with luck, I have pictures of the blooms over here. It is growing in my standard organic mix in a self-watering pot. It is a thirsty puppy, at least in this setup. And I talk about this often, but my organic mix wicks a lot of moisture anyway, and with this open top, it tends to wick it out into the room. So I need to water this a couple of times, at least a couple of times a week. I gave it a drink before we came out to show you today. So the leaves are just, very, very cool, decidedly pubescent. The blooms are pretty. I just love everything about this plant. It's so cool. Yeah, so it lives currently over here on the wall between two grow lights. So it gets a fair amount of light. This puppy's difficulty is moisture, keeping this reservoir, making sure there's always something in there. Because it's rather thin-leafed. The individual leaves are running, let's say 1.5 inches or 4 centimeters. They usually come in pairs. As I said, pubescent. So yeah, my challenge with this one is making sure that there's always something to drink in here, because that's what it seems to need. And then my challenge is also trying to root this. So my next step may be to try just straight cocoa coir, because I can set that up in like little self-waterings and keep it fairly evenly moist. We'll see. I'll keep you posted on how the cuttings that are not doing well are doing, and we'll see what we can do. But fun plant, not always easy to find at a reasonable price. And it doesn't do this overnight. You know, this is 4 years into the show, so yeah. Takes a little bit more light than you would probably expect, but definitely the coolness factor is just way, way up there. This one came from Briggs Nursery in North Attleboro, and this is Hoya linearis. Now one that's been here for 5 years, and this little monster is my Hoya carnosa Rubra, intervariegated. And this is sometimes called Crimson Princess, but there's a whole copyright thing, and I don't feel like discussing it at this point. This thing weighs a ton. It has just done very, very well for me. The leaves are, let's see if I can find a good vine. Here we go. The leaves are beautiful. Let's see if I can do it better. The leaves are beautiful, gorgeous variegation. It has just grown a treat. I'm very, very happy with this plant. I'll be right back. Whew. I had to go put him back where he lives because I was not going to be able to hold that for however few minutes this is going to go on. But Hoya carnosa is native to South Central and Southeast China and Hainan Island, to Japan and the Nansei Shoto, to Laos and Taiwan, and it was first published in 1883 in the Flora of British India by Joseph Dalton Hooker. And that one I discovered in a big box store. The shipment, I was there early in the morning, like they had just opened, and there were 3 or 4 large boxes all wrapped up in cellophane. And I looked through and I thought, I didn't know what it was, but I knew it was a Hoya, and I knew it was coming home with me. So I took my keys and I cut through the plastic, and I kind of looked through and I said, I'm taking that one, and lifted it out. I didn't know what was going to happen at the cash register, but the scanning code was already in the system, and yeah. So as is the case with most of those big box store plants, they come in a cocoa peat mix. And that's really great in the greenhouse where they can control the moisture flow and the humidity and everything else. But my experience has been that in long term, that doesn't really work well for the plant. And when you see a big pot of it like that, it's mostly just a whole bunch of cuttings that have been, stuck into cocoa coir and then given food and moisture and everything else. And they root really well. So what I did was I took it out of that pot, lifted out the whole thing, separated out each cutting, and rinsed them off in just tap water. And then resettled them in a self-watering pot with my standard organic mix of cocoa husk chunks and bark and long fiber sphagnum and some pumice. And there may have been some other stuff in there. And I wasn't fanatical about getting every bit of that cocoa coir off. I just wanted to get off the major chunks. So I settled them all in, working from the outside in, putting in the cuttings, and filling in with that mix. And then just gave it a place to hang out for a while. And it was not happy at first. That's a big traumatic event for a plant like that. But after it settled in, that's been very, very tolerant of my learning curve and my lack of experience at the time. And it has done really well. There are a couple of vines that have reverted, and I'll keep putting in pictures and video and other stuff of that plant. But on the whole, it's done very well, and it's a very, very pretty plant. It has not bloomed, but it has done well. And I'm willing to make that trade-off of like really pretty foliage with not blooms. Okay, I'm fine with that. That's okay. Because I think I paid at the time just under $20 for that big pot, and it was a 6 or 8 inch pot of cuttings, which was the average price, and I think a great price for as many plants as I got out of that. So that you can usually find, it might be under any of those names, but that's the one with the intervariegation. As I said, that came from a big box store, and that's Hoya carnosa Rubra, Hoya carnosa Crimson Princess, or Hoya carnosa intervariegated. But, rose by any other name, or wait, no, now we're mixing genera, and that's what it is. And now the question for the comments. First of all, thanks to everyone who added their comment after last week's video. I'm glad you enjoyed it and shared with us your plans and goals and where you think you're going to grow on your plant journey this new year. That was very interesting. The whole discussion was just kind of fun. I really appreciated your comments. And some of you were very kind, and I appreciate that as well. So the question for the comments this week is, what new non-Hoya genus are you thinking about exploring for the first time or revisiting? It's me, so there's more than one. I am trying Nepenthes for the first time. And you may remember, I think it was last week or the week before, I showed you my first Nepenthes that I got at Jordan's Jungle. And it didn't die in a couple of weeks. Matter of fact, it's hanging over there. I have some plant hangers so I can hang them in better locations. But I took a trip to Logi's and they had some Nepenthes, and I thought, I'm liking this. This is very cool. So I saw these that have these gorgeous little red pitchers, and they will get larger as the plant gets larger. There's another one over here. And I'll put a couple close-ups of the pitchers over here. So I'm trying Nepenthes. I have 3 of them now. That's just about right. Okay. Checking the water level, because Again, it's in a very airy, it's cocoa husk chunks and long fibrous fag. And I think that's pretty much all I put in there. I'm poking around looking. I'm told that they like a decent amount of light and something that's airy and open and moisture retentive. So that's what we've got going on. My friend Erica has one, and I've been picking her brain a little bit about it. So yeah, I'm trying to pent these. We're going to see how that goes. And I'm going to revisit anthurium. Well, sort of revisit. I had several of them, and it was like a 50-50 thing. I watched Kaylee Ellen's video on beginning anthurium, good for beginners. So those are the ones I ordered. I ordered a forgetii, and it did not do well. I ordered a crystallinum, and he does well in the summer outside, but he does not like being inside in the winter. It's just too dry. But he's alive and he's growing. And then I also ordered a vitarifolium, one of the strappy-leafed ones, because I'd heard that the strappy-leafed ones are easier. So he's doing okay. Matter of fact, he's been in that pot for a while. It might be time to go in and fluff up the mix. But yeah, he's putting out new growth. Both of those, the crystallinum and the vitarifolium, are in front of my Sansi vertical grow light, and the strappy one, the vitarifolium, is loving that light. So I might try and work up some kind of better solution for them there. I have 2 on order. Another strappy one, and trying veitchii again. So we'll keep you posted. But yes, enough of my ramblings. In the comments below, tell me what new genus or genera you're trying to explore this year. And as always, I want to thank you for choosing to spend a little bit of your time with me this week's end. Please remember to click that thumbs up, like button, the subscribe button, the notification bell, and when you're all done making comments, if you're on a mobile device, click on that hype button down next to the thanks button. A lot of the products that you've seen me use are available through my Amazon storefront, and here's a QR code so you can visit the storefront. I receive commission on the sales of those items, and it's a great way of helping support the channel without increasing your price for things you might be buying anyway. If you're in the market for grow lights, I have a relationship with Sansi, and if you follow this QR code and use this code at checkout, planted in RI, you'll receive a 30% discount from the prices on the site. So far, I've been very happy with my Sansi grow lights. The plants seem to really love them, and they've made a big difference. Big difference in some of the lives of some of my plants. If you'd like to support the channel directly, here's a link to my Buy Me a Coffee page. Actually, it's a QR code to my Buy Me a Coffee page. Or you can click on this thanks button down here, and that was all handled. The thanks button is handled by YouTube, and the Buy Me a Coffee page is handled by Buy Me a Coffee. There's going to be links to a couple more videos over here, and please enjoy the rest of this new year and the rest of your week's end.